Drua Waratahs. I think the best team kind of won the game. A lot of my focus was on the Drua. I find them a more fascinating team. I find the Waratahs a bit more like... the Waratahs are very talented, but they're missing some key pieces, I think, to get them over the line to being a real contender. And the Drua, I think, tactically just need to do things a little bit differently. At the end of the day, I think the best team won. Congratulations to the Tars. I think they were a better team on the day. Going through my notes, what do I mean about the Drua tactics not kind of lining up for them to win? So I think the Drua started off by going for 3 points early when they were given to them. And I think this is a wise move. They came into it treating it kind of like a test match, like keep the scoreboard running, put the pressure on the opposition, and go for 3. But kind of somewhere into the first half, they stopped doing that. They kept kind of going for the corner, going for scrums, and it didn't work out for them. They ended up kind of losing the ball, and just kind of going into kind of like a brick wall of the Waratahs' defense. I think the Drua's attack is a little bit simple within the 22 and the 10. It's good when they're kind of, it works for them when they're trying to get into that zone, because the opposition has more field to defend. Your sweepers need to be further back, your fullback needs to be covering kicks, and your backline isn't just as condensed with the sweepers behind it. But when the Waratahs were pressurised into going into their own kind of like 22 area and below, like 22 metres to the try line and below, I think they found defence a little bit easier. The Drua's attack was quite simple and just kind of like pass it out, forward man go, pass it out, forward man go. And this really kind of led to their downfall, I think, in terms of losing the game. I think they probably should have recognised early on that this was happening, that they couldn't break the line, because if they had done that, they probably would have stuck with the tactic they were doing at the beginning and taken the 3 points when they were available. I remember a certain point in maybe the end of the first half or beginning of the second half where I think it was when the Waratahs scored a try and they went maybe 2 scores ahead. And I worked out in my head as like, out of the opportunities that the Drua had to kick penalties as they kicked them, they would now still be 2 points ahead of the Waratahs, because I think they missed out on getting 9 points from penalties. So yeah, I mean, you want to go for the corner, you want to be aggressive, you want to go for a scrum, but if it's not working, keep the scoreboard ticking over. Especially as you started the game that way as well, by wanting to take the 3 points. It's a little bit funny for me. But anyway, Drua, I think, could benefit from having A, B, C, D channels. What do I mean by that? Right, so looking at the pitch, looking at the pitch like this from a bird's eye view, this is one side of the opposition, this is one side of the opposition, right? Split the field into 4 groups, 4 lanes, right? So you got A, which is like far left, B, C in the middle, and then you got D on the far right. And you want to split your forward pack out in those groups. So you have like, in one of them, you have like 1 back row, 1 front row, 1 second row, and then a similar kind of like split out between like the 4 groups. I don't know how that splits equally. You want to split your forwards out equally with like the front row split out. And this is for attack. And the reason you want to do that is so that you always have support players there for rucking. Because I felt like the Drua sometimes didn't have that support available. What it is dependent on, though, is that your backs need to be willing to ruck as well. Because you could have a situation where someone offloads the ball to a forward, which would have been there for rucking. Then he runs forward and he's no longer available for a ruck. So you need to be able to have the agreement with the backs that you're going to have a ruck there. Just felt like the reason that I'm saying that the Drua could use this, I felt like they got isolated every now and again in attack. And if you just have forwards already pre-positioned there, then you should have that kind of isolation problem sorted. What else have I got here? There was a lazy arm on Hooper, which led to a penalty, which I enjoyed the decision making in that. This happens in Northern Hemisphere rugby. You have it in the Premiership. You get Austin Healy or Ben Kay just going like, there's everyone's pressuring, trying to go for a red card for the guy to get sent off. this is a penalty to the opposition. To be fair, Hooper is still running his line, which was kind of an obstruction. So he's doing that on purpose. He hasn't pulled out. And the lazy arm is obviously, it's a malicious play and it needs to be penalised. But thank God the referee didn't put a card on the game and just kill the game. Like, this happened in Northern Hemisphere. Everyone would be, pearl clutching at that, and the game would be over. And thank God that we managed to card this guy, but we're killing the game. So yeah, no, good. I like that. The referee let them play. There was stuff off the ball, and I liked it. I think the Drua could benefit in their attack by just not offloading every now and again. Like, there's just these, like, they're so good at offloading, and they want to do it, but they want to do it too much. Every now and again, when they're in attack and they've offloaded it once or twice, they just have the tendency to just offload it an extra time, which isn't gonna, like, it's not for a line break. Like, you're trying to offload it to a guy that's probably gonna get tackled again. It's those extra offloads where you're surrounded by opposition as well, and it's free play, so anyone can be positioned anywhere. They just got turned over. Sometimes it's good not to offload, This is a very Englishman, Northern Hemisphere take, I understand that. But let me explain myself. When you set up a ruck and a maul, you set an offside line. So it means that if you do it, you're less likely to offload after that to someone that's not on your team. See what I mean? You need to sometimes just set the offside line, set the line, and then that means that you can't just have opposition constantly around you trying to pick your ball off when offloading. Let's have a look here. Yeah, I've already talked about them not taking the 3 regularly. I tell you what about the Waratahs. I like Jorgensen, I like Parise, and I like Gordon, the scrum half. I think they're all really great players. I think their forward pack is solid, and they've got a great carrying 8, and obviously they've got Hooper at open-side flanker. So they've got a really solid team. So why are they not competing at the highest levels? Well, I don't want to be harsh. And I'm not going to be, because I think the problem really lies down to the distribution of the ball. I think Donaldson's a good fly half running the ball. Kind of reminds me a little bit like Freddie Burns in that regard. But they could really do with like someone who's just an excellent distributor, just because of the playmakers they have, Donaldson would thrive in a team that has a good pack like the Waratahs do, but they have suspect backline play in terms of attack, because he'll take the ball over the line, he'll kick it into the right positions of the field. But sometimes you just feel like Jorgensen and Parise don't get the ball as much as they can because the ball's not distributed to them properly. A lot of the things that you saw today in terms of Jorgensen, for me, man of the match, played amazingly in defence, and his counter-attacks were incredible. But that's the key point. They were counter-attacks. He wasn't being shipped the ball from a distributor like the fly half regularly in attack. He really shone in the counter-attacks. If you watch all the plays that he did in terms of like drawing men in for a tackle and with a great offload, and his attacking play was purely fueled of counter-attack. And I feel bad for Parise as well, is the same deal. Like, he could do with much better distribution. He's a beautiful runner of the ball, and he could just do with being given the ball in the right situation a little bit more. So, yeah. For example, like, put Richie Mwanga in that team at fly half. That team's flying, in my opinion. Richie Mwanga would make a ton of teams, like, competitors. So, I mean, you know what I mean. They could just do with a slightly better distribution at fly half. At the end, everything kind of broke out a little bit. The game got a lot looser. Tries going back and forward. It was a great competition to see. I think the score that broke the camel's back was the Waratahs scoring in the corner, which I have to say, I think the Drua are a little bit hard done by there. The Waratahs line out just that led up to that score was not straight, and it wasn't called by the referee. But at the same time, the Drua, their number 6 got drawn in on the inside play, walking on the blind side, which left the winger completely isolated. So he had to come in a little bit, and he ended up kind of looking a little bit embarrassed when the 8 trucked him. But the reality is the reason that got set up is because the 14 had to move in with the 6 getting sucked in the back line. So yeah, that kind of broke it for me. And then there was a try after that by the Waratahs, which really sealed the game and made it look like it was less. The score made it look like it was less competitive than it really was. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Ultimately, I think the Waratahs were a better team. The Drua played really well, and it's the same comments before. Drua needs to have a great off season of coaching, and they can compete. This year's not there yet. Don't get me wrong. It's not. But the talent is there for sure. Anyway, looking forward to the big game over here in Europe. That's La Rochelle later this afternoon. Hopefully I'll catch you there. Try and get the review show for that out tomorrow. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this one.